Hi, everyone. You're listening to It's Not That Hard to Homeschool High School, the podcast where we take the overwhelm out of homeschooling your teen. I'm Ann Carrico. I'll be your host. I believe that every mom can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the complete high school education that her teen needs. Get ready to be encouraged, inspired, and empowered to do just that. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the It's Not That Hard to Homeschool High School podcast. Today is episode 2. Woot! And today, as I promised, we're going to start our 5-part series on what you should know to homeschool high school. And if you missed the first episode where I explained all of this, please be assured that I'm not trying to intimidate anybody here when I use that phrase. I am using it rather loosely, saying that these are things, except for the first one, which we'll discuss today, but these are things that it's a good idea to do. They are my recommendations based on my experience, but not all of them are absolute must-dos. So even on these 5 things, you will have freedom of choice. But I do recommend these 5 things. I do want to give you the resources, the tools, and the mindset that you need to homeschool high school with a feeling of success. And so these are my 5 things that I think you should do. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I think you should do these 5 things. But only today's is an absolute must do. So then the question becomes, what is it? Well, here's what you absolutely cannot skip, must do, cannot pass go or collect $200 without doing this thing. And that is that you must abide by your state homeschool laws. Now, having said that, I think the wheels might be going around in your heads. So some people are like, well, obviously I know that. I know I need to know my state homeschool law and abide by it. I've been doing this for a while now, this homeschooling thing. But high school's different, right? The homeschool law seems very general and not specific enough, and high school's different, and I need to be sure that I'm getting everything that we need to do. Well, for those of you that are thinking that, please bear with me, humor me for a little bit, and I think you'll understand where I'm going with this. If you are very new to homeschooling and you are not familiar with the idea of the fact that there are state laws for homeschooling, then I want you to go look them up immediately. Now, where can you find them? The internet is a wonderful thing, isn't it? So you go online and just do a general search for, insert your state here, homeschool law, and then look for sites that end in .gov. And you'll find the written law, the law that you must abide by. It is very important that every single homeschool mom, no matter what age or grade her kids are, knows her state homeschool law. Some are super duper easy, some have a few more requirements, but it is very important that you know what it is. Now, I will always recommend that you read the actual words in the law for yourself before you go looking for somebody's interpretation of the law. There are homeschool organizations out there that will help you to understand your state's homeschool law. I think just about every state has a homeschool organization that has been put together by wonderful homeschooling people, and they will help explain to you what that law says. But use your own discernment and read it for yourself first so that you can decide what your conscience is going to let you do in regards to interpreting that law. You don't want to follow blindly what somebody else says and then find out that you were wrong. So I encourage everybody to find their homeschool law and read it for yourself. And then, definitely consult your state homeschool organization to see if you're understanding it correctly. What are the finer points of applying this law? Okay, but is that enough for now? No, it's not really. Let's go into a little bit more about what it means to know your state homeschool law in regards to high school. And really quick, let me just say that I have an entire chapter about this in my book called Save Your Sanity While Homeschooling High School. It goes into a lot more detail than I'll have time to go into here, including looking at specific laws for specific states, including, I think I look at Pennsylvania in there and New York in there and my own home state of Missouri. So if you're in any of those states, this is a great resource for you. But again, you would want to go look at the law for yourself. Don't even take my word for it. Because as we've already discussed in the previous episode, I don't know everything. However, you can find a great discussion there in that book. Okay, so what do we want to know about our state homeschool law? Well, one of the biggies you're going to want to look at is if there are any required subject areas or specific courses for your homeschool student to take. So, for instance, maybe your state requires reading, writing, math, history, and science, and they require those to be taught. Well, then obviously you're going to want to make sure that even in high school, you are still having those be taught. Maybe your state homeschool law specifies you need to be teaching your kids state history. So then, yes, you would want to make sure that that is a part of your high school curriculum as well, if you haven't done it in elementary school, or if your state requires it to be done on a certain frequency level, or however that works. Because that's the other thing. Just because a law says you have to teach those topics doesn't always mean that you have to have those every year. So while it may say that you need to be sure that your kid is studying science, it may not specify how often, how much, how frequently. I guess that's the same as how often, whether it needs to be done every year or not. So those are things that you can look at your homeschool law and determine. Here's another important thing to look at, specifically in regards to the homeschool law for high school, and that is, does your state have a certain number of credits required for a homeschool education? Now, let me divert just a minute here. We all know that in public school, in order for a kid to graduate, they have to have a certain number of credits. We all know that it's possible to find our public school requirements for our state or our district, and actually it's probably different from district to district, to be honest with you. You can find those online. And you know what? I did that. When I was starting my oldest daughter in high school, I went to look for our local school district's public school requirements as far as coursework and credits. And that intimidated me so much. I didn't feel like I could do what they were expecting to be done. And I went to my husband and was just, I don't know what to do here. And it didn't take him long at all. He just looked at me and said, Ann, we are homeschoolers. We don't have to do those things. We can decide for ourselves. Such a light bulb moment that was. And that really led to my entire high school philosophy, which is that I can choose what I want my child to learn. And if there are requirements as far as subject matters or even specific coursework, I still can choose the curriculum, how they learn it. So we have so much freedom when it comes to homeschooling high school. The state law is often extremely general. It doesn't really, even in the states that have the most requirements, it's not that specific. And so we do have a lot of freedom about what we get to choose. Now, back to those people who were concerned that the state homeschool law wasn't enough for high school and that they were going to miss some things. Tell you what, come back tomorrow and we will talk about what to do to ensure that your student is not missing what they need. And need, again, is kind of in quotes because, again, the only thing they absolutely need in the strictest sense of the word is to abide by the state homeschool law. If you have met your state's homeschool law requirements, then your kid can legally graduate from high school and you do not have to have any guilt or worry that you have done anything wrong. Just let that sink in for a minute. When you feel like your state homeschool law is quote unquote not enough for high school, what that means is that your state homeschool law provides you with a huge amount of choice about how you want to go about this and about what you want your student to do. You get to decide what you think is important. But however that law is written, it is enough. It is sufficient for you to do what the homeschool law says and nothing more if that's what you choose. Pretty crazy, huh? Again, I just want to reiterate, don't go trying to follow the public school graduation requirements. That is a recipe for intimidation and overwhelm and stress. The fact is that there are very few states that have homeschool graduation requirements in terms of numbers of credits and specific coursework that must happen. Most states have a very general, I hate to use the word vague, but it doesn't spell things out for you for their homeschool law. And that's just something to rejoice in, really, because that means that you have the power to choose what you think is important. A couple other things to notice in that homeschool law would be, what type of records do you have to keep? So how often do you need to be recording grades? Do you have to have some type of evaluation for your student? Do you have to do regular standardized testing? Do you have to keep a portfolio? Do you have to report to the local school district in some way, shape, or form? Be sure you know all of these types of things so that you are following that law and all the different things that they are expecting of you to do that are separate from just teaching your kid. All those little, fine print type of things, if you will. Be sure that you know those as well. So what is my point today? My point is breathe. The only thing that you must absolutely do when you homeschool high school is follow your state homeschool laws. And most states do not have very specific or stringent homeschool laws. And those that are more specific and more stringent are actually not that difficult to follow either, and they still do give you so much leeway, so much freedom of choice in how you approach this thing. So I want you to realize that if you are trying to follow something other than your state homeschool law, some other list, some other printout, or your public school requirements, please take a moment and reevaluate if this is absolutely something that you want to do, because I'll tell you this, it's not necessary. Okay? So walk away from today realizing state homeschool law is the only thing that you must do. So for our next 4 sessions in this series, we're going to talk about things that are really great ideas, things that I do recommend that you do, but nothing is something that you must do. How cool is that? Freedom of choice, y'all. Gotta love it. Okay, see you next time. Thanks. This has been an episode of the It's Not That Hard to Homeschool High School podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, if you learned something new, please leave a review on whatever platform you've been listening on today. And also click the subscribe button so that you won't miss an episode. If you want the information that was talked about today, including links to whatever resources were mentioned, then go to the AnnieandEverything.com website, click on podcast in the top menu, and search for this very episode. And there you'll find all the information that you want. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you next time.